Hi, this is Matt from tracymac.co.uk and for unboxings.com, and here I have the HTC Magic. Now, aside from being available SIM-free for around £500 here in the UK, it is a Vodafone exclusive. As you can see, it's quite a small box, certainly compared to many of the other HTC devices. This one is extremely small. In fact, when it came through the post, I wasn't sure that it was actually the right thing, but quite an attractive design, as a very small box. Inside we have the handset itself, presented right on top, which is pretty common, so we're going to have a look at that in a bit more detail in just a second. Also in the box, we have this small white pouch, which is soft on the inside, similar to other pouches that we've seen, and obviously that just slips inside like so. It is leather effect and is stamped with HTC on the front. Then we have a USB sync charge cable, which again is white. It's extended mini USB, so it won't work in all other handsets or other devices, because it obviously is shaped specifically to the connector on the bottom of the handset itself, which is extended mini USB. But it's nice that the cable, in fact all the other accessories, are white to match the handset. I quite like that. We then have an inline headset with inline microphone, so again that's extending mini USB on one end. Then we have this inline microphone with push button and a volume control, and then the headphones on the other end, again branded with HTC. We have a couple of bags here which held the battery, which looks like it's already been installed, and a small piece of rubber. I think that's just an errant piece. We then have the warranty statement, and obviously the part where the SIM card came in, and that has already been installed. So you'll notice that in this package we don't have a mains charger. Now, I must point out that I don't know if that's missing from this particular bundle, because it is a review device, or if none of them come with a mains charger. I must say there doesn't appear to be an awful lot of room to have a mains charger. And also you'll notice there's no CD, and there's no full manual. Again, I can't only say that I'm unsure as to whether or not that is, that would be the case, or if this is just because this is a review handset. I'm not the first person to review this particular handset. So anyway, let's look at the device itself. As I say, it's branded with Vodafone on the front there, as you can see, and on the back it says with Google. This is the HTC Magic, as they branded as a Vodafone Magic. On the front then we have a 3.2 inch touchscreen display, which is actually half VGA, 320 by 480 pixels, which is completely dissimilar to the sort of display that we see on, say, Windows mobile devices, which tend to be QVGA, VGA or WVGA. I don't believe, and may be corrected, but I don't believe there are any Windows mobile devices with a 320 480 display. So below that then we have a series of keys. We have a home menu button, a back button, a search button, and then the phone keys underneath, which are like the red and green, if you like, phone keys, the answer and hang up button. The hang up button also doubles up as a power button. You'll also notice there is a trackball in the middle, which obviously you use for navigating around display, and then the pushes in on the middle there. There's an OK or an enter button. You'll also notice, and if you've been following our site for the last week, we've been looking at the HTC Hero, which was launched earlier this week, and one of the features of the HTC Hero was this kind of this chin on the bottom of the device, which angles the display. Now, while the Magic doesn't quite have the full angled bottom that the Hero has and that G1 had, there certainly is this lip at the bottom, if you like. So there's definitely a similarity in design there, that you can see that it's sort of a similar feature. It just does mean that it's slightly easier to hold in your hand like that, because your thumb just sits on that lip there. Underneath that we have that extending USB connector for sync charge and plugging in our headphones. The little hole next to that is actually the microphone. Around the outside, on the right hand side, there's absolutely nothing. It's completely clean, aside from this nice accent that's around the side, this silver that accents the white. There are actually no features, no buttons, nothing on the top. either, and then there is the volume control rocker on the left hand side, and that really is it. There's nothing else on the outside. There's no dedicated camera button, no other external covers, sockets or anything else. It looks pretty clean. Now I quite like that. I quite like the fact that all the buttons pretty much are on the front and everything else is done through the touchscreen. It makes it a much cleaner handset. On the back then we have a built-in camera, which is a 3.2 megapixel autofocus camera. 3.2 megapixel, not great. Autofocus is useful. There's no flash, no mirror for self-portrait, but that's no big thing. But it is a bit of a shame it's only a 3.2 megapixel camera. Would like to see more, but will comment on how good the camera is despite it being only 3.2 megapixels when it comes to the review. Back cover pops off like so, actually slides downwards rather than upwards. Now if you're coming from an HTC Windows mobile device, you'll probably know that all the covers slide up. This one slides down, so that's obviously a difference there. We have the battery installed right there, and then the SIM card. You have to remove the battery to access the SIM card, as you'd expect, because you can't hot swap. You'll notice the battery is fairly chunky. It's significantly larger than we'd see in, say, the HTC Diamond, and it is that much fatter and heavier. The capacity shown on here is 1340 milliamp hours, so it's a reasonably high capacity compared to other batteries we're seeing on HTC devices. Then we have a micro SD card slot there. Again, you have to remove the back cover to access the micro SD card slot, but you can hot swap it. That cover pops back on like so. Now let me just power up. As you can see, Vodafone branded straight away. Now a couple of things I will point out as I'm just sort of waiting for that to boot up, and hopefully you can pick them up on the camera there. As I say, I'm not the first person to review this handset, but bear in mind the HTC Magic was only launched, you know, a few weeks or so ago, not very long. You'll already see along the top here that the paint outside is chipping off around the edge here and here. Now that's a bit of a surprise and something of a worry really, because as I say, this has been a review handset, and I know other reviewers perhaps may not treat the handset so carefully, but you wouldn't expect them to have used it very much when it comes to doing the review, maybe for a couple of weeks, and to see it already chipped like that is yeah, it's a somewhat of a concern. It seems to be a bit of a quality issue. We've seen it on other handsets from HTC before, but I thought I'd point it out. In terms of the rest of the specification, obviously it's Android OS. There's a 528 MHz Qualcomm processor, got 512 meg of ROM and 192 meg of RAM, so that's pretty reasonable. Dimensions: 113 mm from top to bottom, 55 mm wide, and just over 16.5 mm thick. Does feel quite lightweight, 118 grams, and I think to do with the shaping and the fact that it's all nice and curved and smooth around the outside, it does feel quite lightweight, and it does seem quite small, I think, in your hand compared to say other handsets, considering there is a 3.2 inch diagonal display there. We are quad band for GSM, GPRS and so on, and HSD, PA, WCDMA support is dual band. Device control through obviously the trackball. We have built-in Bluetooth 2.0 with EDR, Wi-Fi is 802.11bng, audio support, MP3s and so on. Talk time is listed at 400 minutes and standby time at 420 hours. Micro SD card support is up to 16 gig as listed in the specification. Whether or not we actually will support higher, we're unsure at the moment. We do have a built-in G sensor and a digital compass, which is quite useful when it's, you know, comes to navigation. And finally, we do have built-in GPS. So if I just have a look through the menus now, it's telling me that the battery is rather flat, which you'd expect. It's probably been in there a while. So let's just menu button to unlock. Now the touchscreen on the HTC Magic and on G1 and the Hero is actually capacitive, very, very sensitive, much the same as the say the iPhone in terms of sensitivity. It does require only the lightest touch, doesn't require a stylus, everything is done with your finger. Now that's partly helped by the Android OS, because the icons are, you know, fairly large and they're laid out and they're very easy to touch. So, you know, pushing the bit at the bottom here brings up like a menu. We've got alarm clock, browser, calculator, calendar, camcorder camera, Google Mail, Google Talk, Maps, and so on. Now bear in mind your email support is pretty limited with the Android OS, and you pretty much have to use Google Mail or more or less nothing at all, which is a bit of a shame, but that's the way it is. We also have Maps on the handset already, which is obviously Google Maps, and that will load, and it does actually require a signal. Again, that's pretty standard with Google Maps. It does require a signal and it will pick up our maps. Obviously it's not picking up my current location there. And we can come out of there, go home, then you got your contacts, and it will list your contacts here. I don't have any on here at the moment. You got your call log, I've only made one call. You got your dialer, which is again extremely sensitive to touch, very good. And then you got favourites for your favourite contacts. Yeah, you can go to Vodafone. You've got a Google search directly on the top of the page there, and then you've got your Google Market or the Android for your Android apps. Then inside the menu you've also got music and messaging. You can compose new messages to text messages and so on, and obviously email, and we can attach MMS and so on. And you've got a gallery, your email, and then you've got your gallery. There's no media installed on there at the moment. And you can also push the menu button at the bottom, so you can go into settings and wallpaper, notifications and search. You can go to settings. Very similar to other HTC handsets, in that it laid out all of the options there in the settings menu for wireless controls, call settings, sound and display. Kind of similar to that we see on the HTC Touch Diamond 2 and Pro 2 and so on, where they've actually laid all that out there. So fairly similar there. And then we can go back, and we go back into our menu, and we can add, I won't do it now, but we can actually add icons on this page on the home screen, and then we can change background and backdrop and so on. So that is, in a very quick tour of the HTC Magic. Going to be doing a full review. We'll comment a bit more on the Android OS, although we've done obviously a review of the G1. This is going to be similar in that respect. But we'll have a full review on tracingmac.co.uk very soon for you. And if you'd like to see any of our other unboxing videos, please check out our other site, unboxings.com.